أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الرحمن علم القرآن خلق الإنسان علمه البيان. الشمس والقمر بحسبان والنجم والشجر يسجدان والسماء رفعها ووضع الميزان ألا تطغوا في الميزان وأقيموا الوزن بالقسط ولا تخسروا الميزان. والأرض وضعها للأنام فيها فاكهة والنخل ذات الأكمام والحب ذو العصف والريحان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. خلق الإنسان من صلصال كالفخار وخلق الجان من مارج من نار فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. رب المشرقين ورب المغربين فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. مرج البحرين يلتقيان بينهما برزخ لا يبغيان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. يخرج منهما اللؤلؤ والمرجان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. وله الجوار المنشآت في البحر كالأعلام فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. كل من عليها فان ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. يسأله من في السماوات والأرض كل يوم هو في شأن فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
सलवात।
अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मुहम्मद व आले मुहम्मद।
मेरे लब पे जो ज़ैनब का नाम आ गया, मेरे लब पर जो ज़ैनब का नाम आ गया, मेरी ठोकर में दरबार शाम आ गया। मेरे लब पर जो ज़ैनब का नाम आ गया, नाम सुनते ही ज़ैनब का दिल ने कहा, नाम सुनते ही ज़ैनब का दिल ने कहा, सर झुका लो अदब का मकाम आ गया। मेरे लब पर जो ज़ैनब का नाम आ गया, अरे मेरे सजदे जहां काम आना सके, मेरे सजदे जहां काम आना सके, एक आंसू वहाँ मेरे काम आ गया। मेरे लब पर जो ज़ैनब का नाम आ गया। अरे देख कर मुझको महशर में बोले मलक, देख कर मुझको महशर में बोले मलक, रास्ता दो अली का गुलाम आ गया। मेरे लब पर जो ज़ैनब का नाम आ गया। जितना इतरा किस्मत पर कम है हबीब, जितना इतरा किस्मत पर कम है हबीब, बिनते ज़हरा का तुमको सलाम आ गया। मेरे लब पर जो ज़ैनब का नाम आ गया। मेरे लब पर जो ज़ैनब का नाम आ गया। सलाम।
अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मुहम्मद व आले मुहम्मद।
On this very special evening of the 10th of Rajab, the night of the Walada of Imam Muhammad ibn Ali al-Jawad at-Taqi alayhi salam, I want to express my congratulations to all of you and to all the lovers of the Ahlul Bayt and the followers of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, and especially to the living Imam, Imam al-Hujjah Ajalahu Farajahu al-Sharif. We're very blessed to be able to come together and remember this special occasion and to celebrate it and to feel thankfulness to God for giving us the opportunity to know these individuals, this pure family, this household, and to be able to remember them on such an evening. And even though we're not here to be able to celebrate it, I want to appreciate the effort of the volunteers who have decorated it so nicely, and all those who are helping to put together these programs. And inshallah, we hope that the Faraj is soon when it comes to the time that we will be all together and be able to commemorate together and being close to one another, inshallah. So our program tonight, we have a special program. We're going to be, inshallah, mentioning some merits of the Imam and something about his birth and some points that we can take from his life, like we usually do on these type of occasions. And then afterwards, we have a presentation by Kissa family, the marriage section. And so a few weeks ago in one of the wiladat at the beginning of the month of Rajab, we had, I think it was Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salam's wilada, we had a special presentation by Kissa family and their Mommy and Me section. And it was really interesting to see something about the program and what they're doing, and also to hear from some of the mothers and even fathers about some of the challenges that they're facing in the pandemic and how they're dealing with it. It it was refreshing, it was interesting, inspiring. And so tonight, inshallah, we're going to be hearing from another section of Kissa family, and that will come after the speech program. So stay tuned for that as well. Inshallah, I'll introduce that before we go to it. Now, we are celebrating the birth of Imam Muhammad al-Jawad alayhi salam, and I want to first mention a riwayah which talks about the occasion of his birth, like what actually took place. And then inshallah, we're going to talk about some of the aspects of his life and some of the points that we can take in terms of developing a closer relationship with this Imam and making him having him play an important role in our lives. So according to this riwayah, Imam Muhammad al-Jawad alayhi salam was born, and Imam al-Rida alayhi salam asked his sister Hakima to be there to be part of the process of helping the birth and the delivery of his son Imam Muhammad al-Jawad alayhi salam. Now, Imam Musa al-Kadhim alayhi salam had a daughter named Hakima, who's the sister of Imam Rida alayhi salam, and Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam had a daughter named Hakima, and that Hakima is her. When you go to Samarra, one of the graves that you can do ziyarah of, which is near the Imamain al-Askariyin, is the grave of Hakima. That's the daughter of Imam Hadi alayhi salam. But this Hakima is a different Hakima. This Hakima is the daughter of Imam Musa al-Kadhim alayhi salam, and she was also a very renowned lady. She was somebody who was famous for her taqwa, and in this riwayah we can see that she had a special position with her brother Imam al-Rida alayhi salam. So he asks her, can you go and be with my wife while she is going to deliver my son? And the wife's name, according to some reports, is Sabika, and according to other reports, her name is Khayzuran, Naubia, or Rehana. And it could be the case that she had several names, and that's why there's a difference in terms of the reports. Now, Hakima reports that when the Imam alayhi salam was born, they were in a dark room, and she was a little bit, she was a little bit fearful, it seems. She didn't like the fact that it was dark. They had a lantern, but the lantern had blown out. But when the Imam alayhi salam is born, she says that there's like a glow in the room, and when he's there, it's like as if a light filled up the room. And the Imam alayhi salam, she gives news to the father, Imam Rida alayhi salam, that a son has been born. And he asks her, he says that, can you please stay and be with him next to his cradle and take care of him? So she does that, and along with his mother. And then 3 days later, according to this hadith, Hakima says that I was at the side of this young Imam, and he raises his eyes to the sky, and he begins to talk, and he says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And of course, this is a miracle, and we see the same miracle being done by the Imam of our time, Ajal Farjah Sharif, at the time of his birth, of him also talking at a very young age. And she's very surprised when she sees this, so she goes to Imam al-Rida alayhi salam, and she says that I've seen and heard something from him which is very wonderful, and she tells him what had happened. What the Imam alayhi salam tells her, he says, "O Hakima, ma taruna min ajaibihi akthar." O Hakima, what you're going to see from the ajaib and the wonders of my son is going to be even more than him speaking in the cradle. So this was the beginning of the birth of Imam Muhammad al-Jawad alayhi salam. One of the famous sayings that we have about him from his father, Imam al-Rida alayhi salam, he says that there has not been anyone who has been born who is more of a source of barakah than this newborn. Ma yuladu mawludun a'adamu barakatan min hadha al-mawlud. He's a source of blessings like no one else has been. Now, why? Why was it the case that Imam alayhi salam said this about his son, Imam Muhammad al-Jawad? We know that all the Imams alayhi salam were barakah for all of humanity. We know that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wa was the source of barakah and mercy. We know that Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam, and so on and so forth, Sayyidah Zainab, so many amazing individuals. Why was he talking about his son Muhammad al-Jawad? The great historians have analyzed this, and they've come to some analysis which is really interesting, which helps us to appreciate more the role of Imam Muhammad al-Jawad alayhi salam. Number one, Imam Rida alayhi salam was more than 40 years old when Imam Muhammad al-Jawad was born. And it had been a long time, and usually the Imams alayhi salam, they had children at a younger age. For whatever reason, Allah's divine wisdom was that this son of Imam Ali Rida alayhi salam would be born at a later age, when the Imam alayhi salam was a bit older than what was expected. So in one way, this was the answer to the Imam's prayers, and in that way it was a source of barakah for him. He was an Imam, and of course all the Imams are sources of barakah. They're a source of blessings and the multiplication of blessings for all those who take guidance from them. But there's something particular about the time at which the Imam alayhi salam is born, and if we understand this, then it gives us insight as to why the Imam alayhi salam was such an important figure and why he played such an important role. And it has to do with the nature of Shias at that time and the type of politics that were taking place. Some people had doubted that Imam al-Rida alayhi salam himself was the Imam after Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam. And some of them had said that Imam Kadhim alayhi salam was the last of the Imams. And then after him, that he was going to be, that he went into ghaiba, he didn't actually die, and he was going to eventually return from the ghaiba. So some of them hadn't accepted Imam al-Rida alayhi salam as the Imam. And when the Imam alayhi salam, when the arrival of his son, it took some time, then they started to talk more, and they started to say, well, look if he really is the Imam, then he would have a successor, but there's no successor, so maybe he's not the Imam. And so in that way, when Imam Muhammad Jawad alayhi salam is born, then it's a way of putting these type of talks, like kind of shutting them off and saying that this is the Imam, and this is the one that we have to follow. Now, we see that according to some of the analysis done by some of the famous historians, we see that there was 5 groups of people when it came to how they accepted Imam Muhammad al-Jawad alayhi salam. This is really interesting because it will help us to appreciate, again, what does it mean for him to be a source of barakah. One group of people were those who, when Imam Ali Rida alayhi salam, when he told the Shias that after me, my successor is Imam Muhammad, my son Muhammad al-Jawad, there were some who accepted it without any hesitation. And these were, the first and foremost. These were the true Shia who, even though the Imam alayhi salam was very young when Imam Rida alayhi salam said he's my successor, they accepted him, no question. Then there was a second group who they only accepted Imam Muhammad al-Jawad alayhi salam after the Imam Ali Rida alayhi salam had to explain to them and had to justify it. Meaning it wasn't enough for them to just hear from, let's say, somebody else. They had to actually go to the Imam and they had to get him to explicitly say that my son is the successor. So in one report, for example, there was a group of companions who went to the Imam alayhi salam, and he told them that you should go to my son in Medina, and you should, because the Imam Rida alayhi salam was separated from his son. He had to be in Marv and his son was in Medina because he was summoned by the Khalifa. So Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam is, in Medina at his home. So the Imam, his father says to go to him and greet him and pay your allegiance to him. And then after they leave, he tells one of the companions, he says that, may Allah have mercy on Mufaddal. Mufaddal is one of the companions of the Imam. He was somebody who was convinced without my having to go through all of this. Meaning that Mufaddal was one of those people that as soon as he found out that I had appointed my son and I had announced that he is the Imam and my successor, then without hesitation, he didn't have to come to me and I didn't have to justify it or anything like that. without hesitation. But there was a group of people who they had to come and they needed that special sort of convincing. Then there was a third group of people who just were silent. They didn't go to Imam Muhammad al-Jawad alayhi salam and say that we're your followers. They just remained silent. And it seems that this group of people, they were a source of, meaning that they were troubling Imam al-Rida alayhi salam, because they would just go ask questions, but they wouldn't actually act on it. And maybe some of these people then eventually went on to cause some problems for Imam Muhammad al-Jawad alayhi salam later on. And then there was a fourth group of people who were very surprised, and they, when the Imam alayhi salam told them that, okay, he's my successor, they said that, well, he's so young, and you're telling us to follow him. In some cases, for example, the Imam alayhi salam is 3 years old, and Imam al-Rida alayhi salam is saying that he's the successor after me. So they're like, how can you appoint just a child of 3 years old? And then the Imam alayhi salam had to explain to them, and he quoted some verses from the Quran. He uses the example of Nabi Isa alayhi salam. He says that Nabi Isa was younger than 3 years old, and Allah says in the Quran that He made him a prophet. So why is it that you're denying that my son is going to be the Imam? And then there was a fifth group of people who just completely said no. They rejected, and they started to spread rumors, terrible rumors. Some of them started to say that this boy isn't even the Imam's son. He doesn't even belong to Imam al-Rida alayhi salam. If he had a son, he would have had him 10, 20 years ago. But this child is not his son. So this gives you a kind of a perspective on the different types of voices that were being heard at that time. And it's in that type of environment that the Imam alayhi salam is going to become the Imam at the age of 7 or 8 years old. He's the youngest of the Imams in terms of when he became the Imam of the time. And people are, obviously, some of them are wondering, and they don't have that type of faith. And they're questioning. They're like, how can a child be like this and that? And you see how there's these 5 different groups of people. But why was this happening? Allah Ta'ala and the Imams, through the Imams, is preparing the people for the tests that are going to come. That eventually there will be a time where not only will the Imam of the time be young, but he will be in ghaiba. And it won't be something where you'll just be able to go and talk to him, and you have to have faith. You have to have trust in the system. You have to trust that when the representatives say that this is the one that the Imam has appointed, then you have to trust it. And so this was all preparation for that. Eventually, the vast majority of the Shias did accept Imam Muhammad al-Jawad alayhi salam as the Imam. And when his son Imam Ali al-Hadi became the Imam at a young age, then it wasn't a problem that he was so young. But they had to go through this type of test. Now, there's a very interesting story that's told about Imam Muhammad al-Jawad alayhi salam, and why is it that he's called al-Jawad, the one who is generous? And it gives us some more understanding of how the challenges that Imam al-Rida alayhi salam was facing. So we're told, according to one of the reports, that Imam Rida alayhi salam writes a letter to his son. His son was living in Medina. The Imam alayhi salam had to be in Maruf. He writes a letter and he says that, my dear son, I'm paraphrasing, I tell you by the right that I have over you that there are some of our followers or some of those who claim love to us, and every time that you leave the home, they escort you and they make sure that you go out through the back door. Why do they do that? They're doing that so that the people don't see the goodness in you, and they don't see the good acts that you're going to do to them. But I'm telling you, as your father, and by the haqq that I have over you, that you should go out from the main door. And whenever you go out, then have some coins with you, some money with you, some food, whatever it may be, so that you can show your goodness to those who are gathered, and you can be seen by the people. Why is it that the Imam ﷺ is asking him to do this? Part of it, of course, is the father teaching his son how he should be. But part of it is also because he wants to make it clear that this is the son of Ar-Rida alayhi salam. And the son of Ar-Rida is one who is with the people, somebody who shows them the generosity, not somebody who has to hide out of fear of, let's say, being known and being spied on, or maybe being assassinated. No, he's somebody who has to be there and show what kind of person he is. And so by these types of things, Imam Rida alayhi salam was preparing the people to understand that this is truly my successor. He truly, in the way that he acts and the way that he is, he's somebody who represents me. I want to share with you a few stories from the life of Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam, which will show us some aspects of his personality. And inshallah, these are things that we can learn from and be inspired by. They say that one time, the Imam alayhi salam was traveling with some of his companions, and then it came time to have a meal, so they spread the table mat on the floor and they started eating. And afterwards, when there's been some food that, like naturally when you're eating, there's some food that falls to the tablecloth, they started to pick it up and, maybe they were going to save it, or they were going to eat up the crumbs. And the Imam alayhi salam says that now that we're eating out in the open, you see all these animals here, you see all the, let's say, the desert animals, maybe the birds, whatever else is there. They've been watching us this whole time, and they have a haqq that needs to be fulfilled as well. So rather than gathering it up, just leave it here and make sure that you do your responsibility towards them as well. So even at that level, the Imam alayhi salam was thinking and was concerned about the needs of all creatures. And this is the type of generosity that he had. In another incident, there was a man who comes to him and he says that, I want you to give me, and I want you to give me to the extent of your noble personality. Meaning that however, show me your nobility through how much you give me. This man comes to the Imam alayhi salam and asks him. And the Imam alayhi salam tells him that is something that I cannot do. Now, why is that? I mean, after all, some of the scholars, they say that when they're the great scholars, when they analyze this hadith, they say that the Imam's generosity is a reflection of Allah's generosity. And Allah's generosity is infinite. So when the man says that, well, give me according to what it is that you have and what you would like to give me, that's something which it's an infinite thing. The Imam alayhi salam can't give that. So then the man tells him, he tells the Imam, he says that, okay, fine, at least give me according to my capacity. So then the Imam alayhi salam is very generous. He gives him 100 or 200 gold coins and he sends him off. And this is one of the many examples we have of how the Imam alayhi salam was somebody who always was there to help the people. In that letter that the Imam Rida alayhi salam, his father, had sent him, he says to him that Allah is not going to ever hold back anything from you, so keep on giving and giving to the people. There's one tradition which is a very interesting tradition where it shows us the type of expectation that the Imam alayhi salam had for his followers. So there's one man who comes to visit the Imam. It wasn't easy to visit the Imam. There were many times where people had to communicate to him through letters, or they had to send messages to those who did have access to him. But this is one of those occasions where it was one of his close companions. He managed to go see the Imam, and the Imam alayhi salam sees him, and he says to him that, I see that you're very happy. Tell me, what is it that has pleased you in this way? So the man tells him that, well, I am very happy because I had the opportunity. There was 10 of your Shias who came to me and they asked me for help. They are suffering and their descendants, their families are suffering as well too. So for 10 families, I was able to take care of them and provide for them. And now I'm very happy because I've been able to do that type of service to them. Now, it's very interesting how the Imam alayhi salam trains this companion. It seems like he sees that this companion is able to go to a higher level. And this is a very important point, that the Imams alayhim would look at the level of somebody and then according to their capacity would try to always elevate them, like a good trainer and a good teacher, a good mentor. So he says, لَعَمْرِي إِنَّكَ حَقِيقٌ بِأَن تَسُرَّ. He says that, yes, definitely, I swear that definitely you are deserving of being happy for this. But you have to make sure that you don't invalidate and you don't lose the thawab of everything that you've done. So his companion is very surprised. He says that, how is it, oh Imam, that I would be able to lose whatever goodness that I got from my action, and I'm one of your sincere Shias. Like, I have Iman and I'm one of your sincere Shias. I did this act. How could I possibly like lose the thawab of doing this? So he says that, this is how you've done it. This is how you've invalidated it. This is how the goodness that you've done to your brethren and the sadaqah that you've given has been invalidated. So he says, well, I still don't understand. Can you explain it to me? Oh, Yabna Rasulullah. So the Imam alayhi salam says, read this ayah from the Quran. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تبطلوا صدقاتكم بالمن والأذى. O you who believe, do not make your acts of charity batil, meaning void, by doing what? One of two things. By doing this act of charity and then holding it against somebody, using it as like something saying that, okay, now that I've done this favor to you, you owe me something. Or number two is when you trouble them. Now that you've given them, now you say that, okay, I'm going to treat you badly. Some people they're like that, right? Like, if it's better not to get something for them, because if you get something from them, then you're going to have to deal with a lot of, verbal abuse, for example, afterwards. So he says to the Imam, he says that, Yamna Rasulullah, I just gave these people and I did that charity. I didn't ask them anything. I didn't trouble them afterwards. So the Imam ﷺ tells him that in that verse, Allah doesn't say that do not make your acts of charity invalid by troubling or, making the person feel like you did a favor. Doesn't say that it has to do with just the person that you're giving to. So very interesting. He's getting him to think about these verses of the Quran. Then he says that what if you were to trouble the angels that are witnessing your deeds? What if you were to trouble us, the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, the ones who also get reports of your deeds? So he says that, well, how can I be doing that? I'm one of your pure Shias. And the Imam alayhi salam says that this is exactly the point. You keep on saying that you are one of our pure Shias. But do you know who our true pure Shias are? They are the likes of Hizbil, Mu'min of Ali Fir'aun. They are the likes of the Mu'min of Ali Yasin. They are the likes of Salman and Abu Dhar and Miqdad and Ammar. Have you made yourself equal to the likes of them? What is the Imam trying to tell him? He's trying to say that, look, being a Shia is a journey. It's a lifelong struggle. The good acts that you do, you can have hope, and you should be doing them. Imam Islam is encouraging him for these. But that state of being able to do a truly selfless act, of really being a true manifestation of goodness, that's something which requires work and effort. Why do you say that you're one of our, why do you take that title for yourself and put it on yourself? No, that's something that you have to earn through continuous jihad and nafs. That's what the Imam is trying to tell him. So he tells him that, Ibn Rasulullah, no, I don't equate myself to the likes of those individuals like Abu Dhar, Salman, Miqdad. So then the Imam alayhi says, well, seek forgiveness from Allah. And the man says, Astaghfirullah wa atubu ilayh. And then the Imam alayhi gives him the good tidings. Well, whatever reward that you have deserved for doing these acts of goodness, it's been preserved now. But he's taught him that lesson. He's given him that encouragement to keep on working, but to do so with this deeper approach, with striving for higher levels of perfection. So this is, this gives us some perspective on how the Imam alayhi salam was training individuals at his time, how his good qualities, he was sharing them with others. I want to share one incident which gives us another side of the Imam alayhi salam and shows us some of the troubles that he had to face. The Khalifa al-Ma'amun, la'natullahi alayhi, he was somebody who always was trying to find a way to get the Imam alayhi salam to, somehow be corrupted and to, somehow get him on his side and support him, to make him fall into league with the Khalifa. After all, it would be easier if he's like that. And he tried many various ways of doing this. And eventually, according to some reports at least, it was his daughter who married the Imam alayhi salam, and she was the cause of his shahada at a very young age of 25 years old. But one of the incidents that caught my attention was something that I wanted to share this evening, of how Ma'mun tried to trick the Imam alayhi salam, or tried to, bring him into corruption. So what happened was that there was a gathering at the court, and Ma'mun, he summons the Imam and he forces him to be present. The Imam doesn't have a choice to leave. And he calls in this one man who was a famous entertainer. He, had the hadith says he had a long flowing beard, and he was very skilled. He had several musical instruments, and he just knew how to entertain. And he tells Ma'mun proudly, he says that any type of worldly entertainment, I'm a master of it. Just tell me and you'll be entertained. So Ma'mun tells him, okay, go ahead, do your thing. And so he starts to pluck at the strings of his instruments and blow into the flutes and whatnot. And suddenly the whole court is mesmerized by this concert that he's putting on. The Imam alayhi salam is present. He can't leave. But they see that the whole time he has his head bowed down and he doesn't pay the slightest attention to whatever is taking place. And after it finishes, the Imam alayhi salam raises his head and he says one sentence. He says, "Ittaqillaha ya dhal uthnun." O the one who has a long flowing beard, have taqwa of Allah. When the entertainer, when he heard this, the instruments fell from his hands. And he never picked up instruments until he died. Meaning that for the rest of his life, he left aside, this type of job. Now, before he died, at some point, Ma'mun, the Khalifa, he asked about him. He said, what happened to him? He left the court at that time. And they asked him, they said that when the Imam said those words, it was one sentence, but when he said those words, it created such a fear inside of me that I never wanted to go back to that type of thing ever again. This is something which is an inspiring story from the Imam alayhi salam, how he was put in these situations, but how through resisting those type of environments and by calling people to goodness, he was able to change even the likes of someone like this musician and this entertainer. The final story I want to share with you is it's a practical story that we can take a point of advice from. It's from one of the companions of the Imam alayhi salam. His name is Bakr ibn Saleh. And he says that there's one of my friends who wrote me a letter and he describes what's happening. He says that I have a father who is a hater of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. He's a Nasibi. And I'm a follower of the Imam alayhi salam. So I wrote to the Imam alayhi salam and I told him that, it's getting to be very difficult to deal with my father. He's always criticizing me, my beliefs, and he's always he's interfering in my affairs, and I'm finding it very difficult. Can you pray for me, O Imam, and give me some advice on what I should do at this point? The The Imam ﷺ writes back to him and he tells him that, first of all, I make dua for you and I will continue to make dua for you. It's very interesting, that this concept of asking the Imam to pray for us. When we're doing tawassul to the Imam of our time, we can do that. We can say, oh Imam, don't forget me in your dua. And this is one of the things that we're told in Dua Nudba. Actually, we read this, that, oh Allah, grant me the dua of the Imam alayhi salam. But then what does he tell him? He says to him that al-mudaratu khayrun laka min al-mukashafa. These two words, mudara and mukashafa, are actually opposite meanings. Mudara is when somebody in a conflict, they do what it takes to make things get along, to sort of patch things up, to have that type of sharh sadr and that type of expanded chest, to be able to sympathize, empathize, and sort of be patient with the other person and treat them kindly despite their ill will and their grumpiness and their evilness. Mukashafa, on the other hand, means that you go at it head to head and you make it be you exacerbate the conflict. You make it be a huge thing. The Imam ﷺ tests that no, it's better for you. Mudara is better for you than mukashafa. Then number one. Number two, وَإِنَّ مَعَ الْأُسْرِ يُسْرًا. He quotes the verse from the Quran that for a believer, when you have usr, there's yusr as well too. Don't think that it's all about just these tense situations that you're put in with your father. No, at the same time, there's yusr there as well too. There's God's help that you can feel when you have these types of conflict. And the third thing, فَاصْبِرْ فَإِنَّ الْعَاقِبَةَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. Again, he quotes from the Quran. Be patient because you should know that the end outcome is always going to be in the favor of the muttaqeen. And he says, then he makes a dua for him. He said, may Allah make you firm in our wilaya. May Allah make your beliefs firm. And he prays for him. And then what happened is that after some time, he says that I took the advice of the Imam. And even though my father was a nasibi, I treated him kindly. I forced myself to get along with him. And soon after some time, he became very, very lenient with me. And everything that I wanted, he was acceptable and he was agreeable to that. This is a lesson for us that these types of conflicts that we have sometimes in our homes, we think that, no, it's just, it's between us and our family members and we have to just tough it out. Well, this is one example which shows us that we're not alone in these. Our guides, the Ahlul Bayt, are there for us to guide us in all aspects of our life. They are praying for us and they give us these type of strategies and they promise us that they will be effective. So these are things that inshallah we can take and use them to apply to the situations we're facing. We all, especially during these days, we're getting a lot more time to practice what it means to interact with graciousness and kindness and patience with our family members. So inshallah we can come out of this having learned some of these techniques. The last thing I'll mention is just finally that, it's the day of the celebration of Imam Jawad alayhi salam, and sometimes, we might just fall into like a certain ritual pattern where we just commemorate, but we don't really realize the value of this. One of the things that's special about the birthday of Imam Jawad alayhi salam and the birthday of Imam Hadi is that according to a report, the Imam of our time actually has a special dua that he taught us where we remember the birthday of the Imams. It's a beautiful dua. The Imam alayhi salam says, according to this report, Allahumma inni as'aluka bil mawludaini fi Rajabin. Allah, I ask you, by the sake of the two who were born in Rajab, Muhammad ibn Ali Athani, meaning Imam Jawad, wa ibnihi Ali ibn Muhammad, meaning Imam al-Hadi, because according to some reports, he was born on the 2nd of Rajab. وَأَتَقَرَّبُ بِهِمَا إِلَيْكَ خَيْرَ الْقُرَبِ. And I come closer to you by their sake in the best of manners. And then it's a short dua, but the Imam alayhi salam asks, oh, the one from whom all goodness is sought, and so on and so forth. What is the point? The point is that the birthdays of the Imams are so special that even the Imam of the time, according to this report, is asking Allah by the sake of this. So it teaches us that having a special place in our calendar for the wiladats and the shahadats, these are very necessary. And in particular, Imam Jawad alayhi salam, Imam Hadi, these imams that sometimes we don't give as much priority and attention to, they're so important that the Imam of our time, according to this report, is asking Allah by the sake of them. And that's something which, inshallah, we can take as an example for us and have a special place in our lives for these imams. May Allah Ta'ala help us to be amongst the true followers of the Imam and the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now we're going to turn to the special portion of our program. Kissa family is part of Al-Kissa Foundation, and they've been doing great work in the area of helping families in various aspects, and they have a number of branches or groups and teams that are working on different aspects of the family. Tonight, we're going to, inshallah, hear from some of the volunteers and some community members, both locally and also across the country, who are either involved with Kissa family or were brave enough to share with us their reflections, their thoughts, their perspectives about what has it been like when it comes to leading a family life and a married life in the times of the pandemic. And I want to commend all the people who are involved with putting these together. I know that sometimes it's very awkward and maybe it's not so easy to share, but really we do appreciate that, and we appreciate your efforts in giving us, your perspectives. I think that it's inspiring to at least see other faces than, the typical people that you hear from, and it's inspiring to hear how different believers are dealing with the challenges that they're facing, and we can take tips from these. We can at least be inspired to reflect upon what we've learned and what we could do better. So inshallah, we're going to be hearing an overview of this branch of Kissa family, and then we're going to be actually hearing from some different individuals. The overview is about 9 minutes long, and then afterwards there's a few reflections which are each about 1 minute long. So inshallah, you can be with us and benefit from all these different contributions from these community members and mu'mineen all around the country. May Allah reward you all for your efforts. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammad wa alihi at-Tahirin.
Okay, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and thank you, Sister Zainab, for joining us for our little showcase of Kissa family marriage. It's really a good opportunity for sharing a little bit about what it feels like to be in the group, what you get out of it, and what others might see coming out of it. So could you tell us a little bit about, what camaraderie or what you get out of being in the group as a volunteer?
I was actually going to use that word, camaraderie. It's just nice to know that you're not the only one with these issues. So I'm personally in an interracial marriage, intercultural marriage, and so I'm from Pakistani family. My husband's from a Kashmiri Indian family, and there's certain issues that don't arise in other marriages. So it's just really validating to see that no, there's not something wrong with you. This happens in that kind of arrangement. So it's that's helped me on a personal level.
Yeah. What about what you're hoping to see come out of our team? What would you love to see develop? What are you hoping to work on yourself?
On myself,
like, what projects do you want to maybe suggest or see come out of our group?
You mean the group as a whole?
Yeah, and also like your specific subgroup. You're leading the team for research on interracial, mixed couples, and that's just one aspect of our team. But so if there's something specific to that or something as a whole that you would like to see, or you're hoping for, you're excited about.
What I would like to see is how we can use all of the information we uncover to help couples in the future. I'm thinking maybe in terms of pre-counseling, learning to manage your expectations, and learning how to navigate that certain aspects of marriage, particularly, the intercultural divide. So, and if that happens, then, you'll have happier families, and it'll just strengthen the community as a whole. So I'm really excited to be a part of that.
Alhamdulillah. I am too. It's really exciting. Marriage is such an essential facet of society, and there's no guidebook for it. So if we can help people, So that's we might not come up with a guidebook, but we hope to be a support, inshallah. So I'm really glad you're a part of it, and it's really great to have you on our team. For the last year now, we've had really different circumstances, and as far as quarantine and COVID. And what I wanted to ask couples, and thank you for sitting me to answer these questions, is what are some of the habits or rituals or traditions that you and your husband established during COVID? Like, what was the silver lining in all of this?
Silver lining, I would say, we've learned to use the resources available in our neighborhood. It's brought us together as a family, and with the lockdown of most of our favorite outings, places, we've learned to look for new places, and we discovered a lake that's behind my house, less than a mile. There's a trail that goes around it. One day I thought, okay, hey, let me take the girls and let's see what we can do, because it's something different. And seeing geese, we saw a log full of turtles, we saw other birds. It was just incredibly relaxing. And then another day, my husband and I were trying to figure out a way to really lift our child's spirits. Our older daughter, she had a real beginning, her behavior changing, and it was alarming. So we thought, that's really fun during this lockdown, and we decided to check out the lake by our house. We drove past this lake for 5 years. Drove past it, and we just thought, oh, well, yeah, one day we'll check it out. Yeah, we'll do that. And so during COVID, we decided, you know what, let's do it. We rented a boat. We realized the marina is 25 minutes from our driveway. And we go down there, get on the boat, and we just go off into this lake. And our stress, our troubles started to melt away. We were amazed at how stunning it is. We had no idea. We live in a suburb outside Atlanta. We have no idea how beautiful Georgia is. So, because this lake is actually, it's a maze of islands. And we're just floating around different islands. We park find a sandy spot, go swimming, get a bite. It was like my daughter was saying, it's an adventure. So it was just it really brought us closer together. So that's ours.
It's really nice to hear, alhamdulillah. It's really resourceful of you, and it was a beautiful opportunity. It's really nice that you guys seized it, alhamdulillah. Do you feel there are some ways, maybe really big ways, maybe tiny ways, that your marriage was strengthened through COVID?
We have been working on how to manage our conflict. So in my personal marriage, I'm dealing with several gaps. First of all, my husband and I are from different cultures. Prior to, I did not realize how different our cultures were.
Yeah.
And after we got married, I learned just exactly how different everything was. The way you converse with a person, that's different. There's a number of small differences you can have with a person. You don't realize how many there are. The speaking volume you have with another person, that's different cultures. So obviously, inevitably leads to conflict and dealing with marriage. And we've learned how we're still learning how to resolve it during this whole where we were learning when we should to talk things out, the importance of managing your emotions, and things like that. And that's been a big help to us.
That's fantastic. That is the work of marriage, and it's refreshing to share with each other and learn from each other. So I really, really thank you, and have a really great rest of your day. And Assalamu alaikum to this whole Saba community. And take care. Assalamu alaikum.
Salam.
Mom, we're
My husband and I started taking walks after work during the lockdown, just to get out of the house and to get some fresh air. We have our own offices in our house. His is downstairs and mine is upstairs. So we have tea together during the day, and then we do walks and watch TV sometimes, or most of the time. So that's what we've been doing together as a couple during the lockdown.
Because of COVID, we now have the opportunity to go to Jummah more often. We try to go as many weeks as we can with our son.
We're also going on longer walks with him, so that's become a new tradition of ours.
We are also listening to, we have more time to listen to more du'as that we wouldn't listen to as much, and we're also introducing new ones to our son and teaching him more du'as. And in what ways has our relationship strengthened? Honestly, we've just had more time to talk and reflect about our actions together, and we've been learning a lot more about each other.
Yep.
Assalamu alaikum everybody. My name is Mustafa Khan. Some of the traditions, rituals my wife and I started since COVID began is to make sure that no matter what else is going on, we tune in every Tuesday and Thursday for Dua Qawwal and Dua Tawassul respectively. Another thing that we started because we have a young daughter who's 3 years old and wanted to establish the importance of Maghrib and Dua and Quran, that we started that every night around Maghrib time, we'll tell her like, oh, it's Dua time, and we either read a short Dua or we'll put on a surah through YouTube or something like that. And it's gotten to a point where, alhamdulillah, she's reminding us once it starts getting dark that it's like Dua time. And then, during Muharram, I was very, we made sure that like no matter what, every night we would listen to the majlis and make sure to show the importance of it, especially for our daughter's sake. Same thing in month of Ramadan. Make sure that we tuned in for the program, just even though we can't be at Saba, and but still show the importance of the majlis and of the programs, so that she knows that these are important aspects of our religion and traditions and rituals that should be continuing, inshallah. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Some of the rituals that my husband and I have been doing during the pandemic is we've been reading more books. We've had a chance to play more board games and spend more quality time together. Since he doesn't commute into the city anymore, he doesn't come back home late like he normally would. He's home, so we're able to have early dinners and conversation and make time for each other. On weekends, we'll go hiking, or we'll go on camping trips with the family, and we sometimes register for workshops that are online and teach each other what we've learned, and play Kahoot quizzes, which are really fun. And that's about it. Or we'll go out and play tennis. So it's been a bit of a challenge to be away from the community, but alhamdulillah, we've also grown closer together by spending more quality time.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Imam. COVID had a pretty profound effect upon me, as well as my husband Ali. I think the biggest thing we did was establish the practice of meditation and really cultivating gratitude in our lives daily. And other wonderful things that have kind of resulted are spending a lot of time in nature and getting a lot of sun, just spending time in the greenery or, just walking and in silence with our son, who really enjoys just being with trees and stones and dirt, or just walking even around the block, catching up on our days. We started playing board games. We kind of made prayer our centerpiece in the evening, which was really a great change. It just allowed us to do something together, which I appreciate.